Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in. It is good to see you for the second time this week.
Yeah, I love it. I
I
love
know.
it. Get to hang out in real life,
I know.
with hanging out with the stars.
Oh my gosh. You just feel so lucky to be able and just be in a position to hang out with folks, people we've met and have kept in touch with and we're friends with, you
Yeah,
know,
it's a
like
small community, so probably should backtrack.
totally.
Tell people what's going on.
Yeah.
So Zena, you may have seen her social media. But Zena and I, well, we went to Toronto.
Uh-huh.
We were invited by Show Power and Paul and the crew and Tim and Lawrence
Oh yeah, shout out.
and yeah, hey guys. And yeah, we got to go behind the scenes of the one of the largest touring productions in the world.
hmm
Coldplay's. We went to see Coldplay's 203rd concert, of which something like I don't know if it's 80 of them or somewhere in that have been powered by the Show Power batteries. And yeah, it was an incredible experience. So we both flew to Toronto for one day and then
Oh
back. Yeah.
gosh, I know. S- Yeah, it was a great experience. Mark interviewed and I was the camera person. So, it'll come out in a couple weeks. So bear
Yeah.
with us on that.
Yeah. We'll try
Um,
to get that out as soon as we can.
yeah.
But just beautiful production.
Yeah, totally. It like, and just the openness of the show power folks and this is it's one thing to hear about it and read about it in an article. It's another thing to see it up close in person and to really understand what's going on and to see where the cables are plugged in and how it's working and what the sort of essence of the show is, what the stage looks like, all of the elements. And you're like, wow, okay, it's big stuff,
The
lot going
hundreds
on.
of trucks,
Yeah.
idling
Hundreds of,
on biodiesel.
yeah,
Uh,
it is so cool to see in person and just experience it all. And I will say, and I think this is gonna, be part of our interview with Paul as well, but like Coldplay made sustainability cool. Like,
yeah.
it wasn't, they weren't hiding it anywhere. It was in your face all over the place. People
Yeah.
were engaging with it. It was cool to,
Yeah.
you know, be at that concert. And
Yeah, it was, I mean, projected on or whatever on 100, 200-foot LED screens of like, even at the beginning, there was like the sort of a preamble about like, this is, about regenerative forestry and agriculture and renewable energy. And like,
mhm.
just the messaging was tight. And also they had these Kinetic dance floors, which arguably don't produce that much, that much power. But it's so cool to see people engaging. Like there was at
Yeah,
one point they were like they had enticed people to go on these two different kinetic stages and to basically jump and try to out power each other or
yeah,
out produce each other. Right?
uh-huh.
It's
Yeah,
fun. It's an
it's
engagement.
fun. It's fun. So, this is again, we talk about messaging, we talk about, how do we rethink, how we're talking about sustainability, what's the word, what's the vibe of it all. And, usually we hear it in sort of this, another thing we have to do or whatever. And we have the ability to rethink and reshape this conversation. And Coldplay just did it. Like
Yeah.
that's just what it was. And there was no like, now, or, make sure you do this. It was like, yeah, no, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And the concert was great. And nobody was, like
Yeah.
worse off
And
for it. In fact, it was like enhanced it, I thought.
yeah. Yeah. And it supported their message of just like positivity and love
hmm
and, no,
Yeah.
loving your neighbor or whatever, like he went off many times on this stuff. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really, really gracious. So yeah, we were really, it was a really incredible experience.
Hmm.
And I mean, not even the biggest Coldplay fan, classical, I don't put it on Coldplay, but I recognize all the songs. You know what I
I
mean? It's like
know.
you literally can sing along with almost every song.
Oh,
You
so
don't even need,
great.
yeah,
We're like, oh my gosh, this is so
yeah.
fun. So, okay. So nerding out on batteries, nerding out on the music that we knew, nerding out on, the whole like operation of the place.
Yeah, and just to be able
And
to go behind this, just to be able to like literally walk from a 50,000 person crowd to behind the stage. I mean, that's always a trip too.
oh man, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, super cool. We look
Mm,
forward to showing you all. So, stay tuned. And, show Coldplay some love, like this is awesome. And more of this, please. If anybody else, any other artists, touring crews have this sort of thing, like we are happy to amplify because
yeah,
Mark gets in there and asks good questions on the tech side, and I can chat with anyone. So, yeah,
yeah,
we even met
own
some
it.
other, yeah, exactly, own it, right? Oh, we even met some other solar folks who are, trialing
Mm,
things, and so we got a little bit of footage with them. So, you know what? This is all really cool stuff. So,
yeah, and the stars and star power has to do it. I mean, it's like we need them to lead this discussion, to lead the messaging, because we say that all the time here, right? I mean, media and entertainment as a force for change has to happen, and they're doing it. They're putting their money where their mouth is, literally. I
hmm.
mean, 200,000 people are passing through those four shows, right?
Yeah.
Like that's incredible reach for their key
That's just
messaging.
Toronto. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
Toronto.
Just Toronto.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it's just wild. Um, and one thing too, on a more sobering note, right? I mean, Chris Martin did talk about the tragic flooding in Texas
Mm-hmm.
on stage, right? Bringing awareness to that, and that's something
Yeah.
that's near and dear to our, well, close to our, you know,
Yeah. I
our. We were
know.
just in Texas. We were literally just there,
Yeah.
um, right? And
It's oh God, super tragic. Super tragic. I mean, this is where, you know, the systems are all connected, and we're, talking about climate change, we're talking about like people and, the suffering and the loss is just, across the board. It's just tragic. So,
yeah, and I think just to echo some of the sentiments these days of like we're now into adapting and changing. We need to change where we build, where we are. Our we need to adapt our mitigation plans and just how we're looking at the data and our weather models and like all this stuff. We've got to get better at it. We can't just be like we have the technology now to do it. Can't just rely on government even to do it right anymore. There's like I don't know. This it's so crazy. There's so many failures along every way. This should not happen. But catastrophic weather events are happening more and more and more. It's
hmm.
not these aren't 100-year floods anymore.
No,
This is like
no.
every 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we don't recognize that, then there's going to be significant loss in the future, right? Like so, super sad, also warning, a
Mhm.
reminder of what what we're going to be seeing, It's
And
intense.
and also I mean we're going to see more and more of this content also being socialized through media as well and just like movie right production like there's going to be
Oh,
stories of this of these sort of like more tragic
yeah.
weather events and so on. I think it's going to be not just plane crashes anymore. This is like
Hmm.
huge life changing, community changing events.
Hmm.
So yeah, I hope it, wild days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of wild days, and maybe to change the subject a little bit, how was
Yeah,
Friends Club? You
yeah,
talked to me before you went, but haven't heard anything after. What what
yeah. It
happened?
was it was beautiful. It was amazing. I mean, 310 people. off grid, no cell phones. I think, what's awesome is that we almost need to be in places that don't have cell phones anymore. Like
Yeah.
where you have no coverage. You're forced to put the phone away unless you want to take a photo, to put the phone away and old school, like figure out where you want to go, flow with the vibe. But there's something about removing cell phones and being in places where you cannot access a cell phone that is, I think, critical and important to connecting with people and also connecting with yourself. So
Hmm.
that was a nice reminder. But the event was absolutely flawless. The musicians and DJs were camping with the event goers, and so the
Oh,
vibe
fun.
was super tight. Uh, Powered all the sound and lights during the most of the day and into the evening on solar and batteries. We powered most of the kitchen, solar and batteries, and we powered an entire little lower stage on solar and batteries. We did have backup on every one of the 5Ks. There was two 5Ks, the volt stack 5Ks, and at night we would switch to the generator for the major sound and lights, just because it wasn't worth draining the entire battery and then trying to play catch up by the time the morning came around.
Yeah.
But yeah, super cool experience, and shout out to the Friends Club production crew and Kara and Paul and Carly and Nick and Spencer, and I don't know who I forgot there, but really, really awesome, awesome show. And yeah, I don't know, something to be really proud of. And it changed people's lives. So, you know, again, we need these experiences. You need to go to cold plays. We need to go to events and festivals to remind ourselves that magic is real and connection is the most important thing. And, feeling safe and supported in these environments. We
Hmm.
saw it at Coldplay, 50,000 people literally uplifted,
Yeah.
right? Feeling heard, feeling seen, and feeling supported. And so
Hmm.
yeah, so that's anyway, a little more on the woo-woo side of things, but it's true. Like it's just this is what we yearn for. Humans need connection.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. So if you're hearing this, go find a friend, right? And go do something together and enjoy each other's
And get
company
out in
with
nature.
get out in
Turn your
nature.
cell phone off. Don't
Yeah.
look at your phone for an hour.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, we hope you all had a good week and look forward to this conversation coming up. And do remember to like and subscribe and pass this on to someone because we're getting some good feedback on the podcast and we really appreciate all your support out there. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the tie-in. We are excited today because we have a group of sustainability professionals here to talk about some really cool work that's going on. We have Dörte and Zsófia and Roxy. I want to go around and just have each of you, if you don't mind, just share a little bit about you, what you do, and then we'll get into all the great work that you're doing together. So, Dörte, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for being here and being the first group you ever received. It's an honor. It's like, yay. So back in the years, I studied editing. Then I worked for 20 years as an AD. And then at some point, I was really, really, really tired of that and took the green consultant course back in Germany. And then I took that knowledge to Portugal, where I've been based for forever, and tried to get things moving here. And nowadays, I'm also teaching that very same course, but in Portuguese, and bringing up the Portuguese new generation of green consultants. And that's basically it. And sometimes I have strange ideas.
Which we'll hear
No.
about.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Roxy, you wanna go next?
Sure. Yes. I'm Roxy Erickson. I run a consultancy in London called Creative Zero. We work across the creative sector. So advertising, commercial events, music, immersive tech, film and television. Um, And mostly what we work on is sort of large scale industry collaboration. And then we also do all sorts of business carbon auditing and helping with, we do lots in transport and mobile power through the Fuel Project, which we partnered with Film London for. And I also work on the Music Climate Pact. Um, and also with Zena on the UN's ECHA project a whole lifetime ago.
I know.
And then today we're talking about a different collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah. It's super cool how folks are, coming together and collaborating. So looking forward to diving in there too. And Sophia, you've been on before, but tell us what you're up to now.
I have. Thank you very much for inviting me back. It's a pleasure. A lot has changed, as you said as well. So, as a quick recap, by profession, I studied and worked in sales and distribution for about 10 years in the UK. That kind of expanded into exhibition, PR, festival strategy, having my own festivals and whatnot. And then I ended up on the other side of the table in development. From then, I jumped into this whole sustainability world. And now I'm very, very happy actually that after my previous company, I started a new company. I left the previous company and now I own Leverage Point Entertainment. And with Leverage Point, we can actually bring together all these things that I just mentioned. So that's why I'm extremely excited. I can finally go back to my roots and look at scripts and sustainability and kind of this holistic approach, I guess, that's always been on my mind. But I'm just really happy that now we can really do it. And that holistic approach involves a lot of training. So I'm doing all kinds of trainings for any kind of stakeholders within the film and TV industry, and sometimes expanding to the creative branding advertisement industry, but less so. I'm kind of more focused on the scripted world at this point.
Very cool.
And we're here again. Yeah, sorry. So the collaboration, which is super exciting. So just gonna say that.
Yeah. Yeah, super important and super exciting. Yeah, so I've been seeing seeing this online. I'm really excited for the work that you all are doing. So Dörte, I understand this is your kind of brainchild here, to do a global grid tie-in survey. So can you help us understand what that is, and then we can talk through, the learnings, what you guys found.
You know that you can't make a baby on your own, so you need several. This is what we did, sort of. So we put our brains together. Now, at some point, because we always recommend to every client, we say, you should tie into the grid, you should tie into the grid. And I'm based in Portugal, and in theory, it's quite easy. I've had meetings with the responsible parties, and it all looked super easy. And then in practice, it's not easy at all, and it's not practical. It doesn't work with the short time frames that we usually have to work with, etc. So I was wondering, is this just me having this problem, or is this like global? So we have this great WhatsApp group. Zsófia founded, I think, 5 years ago or so. And I thought, yeah, maybe I just ask those 300 something people all over the globe, how does it work where you are? Because I want to know place. I knew it worked in a few places, but I wanted to know how it worked, what it caused, the obstacles, the bureaucracy involved. So just that I could take that to Portugal and tell the people, hey, there are places where it works and it's so much easier. And so I put this question out there, and that was March the 5th. I checked it yesterday. And then there was a lot of people like, oh yeah, I also want to know about it. Yeah, I can jump in, I'll help you with that. And then Zsófia messaged me on a parallel track, and she said, I wanted to work on this. I have worked with this. Let's do this together. I'm here with you. And then she said, and Roxy also. So we come together, and then, yeah, this was this group of 3 mothers, and we have a child now.
I want to be the dad.
I'll actually take the child position. It sounds like the least responsible one.
Right. Too late now, Zsófia.
So maybe we can dig into that a little bit more. So just at a high level, this new entity, this new baby, this new creation, what did you find? Like what did like and who reached out to you and went and you know, where did you get the information from?
Hmm. I'll pass it on to the both of you, but because I totally forgot like five really important parts of this, because Roxy said, yeah, we should send out a survey to people, so it make it a little bit more easy for us to have all the data in one place. And then Zsófia said, yeah, we're gonna have so much data, we should do something with that. So then, and all the people who had been interested in knowing that as well, we thought, okay, we have to set something up so we can learn together with and from each other and grow together. And then like, okay, Roxy and Zsófia, you girls jump in there now to keep on the narrative.
Well, I'll jump into that part just to say I think hearing you retell that it's so often what sustainability roles turn into. You think your project is this, and then you open that can or you look under the rug and you go, oh no, actually, if we're going to do this right, we need to do all of these things too.
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that there was interest. So, first, this needs to be tempered a little bit because this is an area that just hasn't been spoken about enough. This is still a bit wild, wild west in most places on the planet, as we've discovered. So our survey was more of a dip your toes in, check the temperature of the water, see what we're working with just to begin. But we got responses from lots and lots of people, mostly sustainability professionals that and all of them. Well, we did reach out to music as well, but everybody who came back to us ended up from film and television, which shows a bit of the weight of this group, I suppose, and who we can reach out too. But we heard from other folks like folks that work in city film offices. We heard from some producers. We heard from some location managers. Um, and then we took a look at those stories that were coming back to us. So we asked lots of open-ended questions. Just have you even tried to have a temporary grid connection? Like, has this worked? And so what we found was about a third of the folks responding, sorry, two-thirds of the folks responding have tried this. And then lots of what we found was conflicting ideas that none of us have there in many places there isn't clear guidance. So then we knew that we needed to get some of those great replies in a room. And Zsófia was great at organizing this conversation. So we had a big conversation about it. Um, and we had people tuning in from everywhere and from commissioner level and studio level right through to some new folks, some really quite junior sustainability folks that are also looking to, these are the folks that we can really who are going to do better than all of us. So it was nice to see everybody coming together for an open conversation on is this working or not, and what do we need to do?
What came out of that conversation? Like, what are people grappling with grid tie-ins? Are they even thinking about it, or is this new information to some people? Like, I'm just curious what the spectrum is there.
Maybe I'll take this one, and I
Yeah.
will start from Adam and Eve because this little story has been on my mind, and I thought maybe we can start from there. Because I was actually really, really happy when Dörte put that question in the WhatsApp group as well. I've been obsessed with the grid cabinets. Oddly, I know it's a weird obsession to have, but I used to work at Albert. And I was the international manager, and I was keeping in touch with our Canadian partners who then told me a lot about the amazing things that's happening there. And one of those amazing things was the grid cabinet. The other things were around the map and then the DGC calculator and all of that. And I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely insane. We should have it everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was around the time they were also trying to either they were just building it or they were about to unveil it the Great Cabinet in Victoria
The
Park. So
the power
everything,
kiosk, right? Or is that's
yeah, yes, I
And
think you
they're
call it
called
power
different
kiosk.
things
yeah,
everywhere,
Yeah,
right?
I know in
exactly.
Vancouver they called it the power kiosk.
So we
Yeah.
heard there's 5 now in Vancouver,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And so they were just about to unveil it in Victoria Park, and so my obsession just grew. And every time I came back to Hungary, or I was talking to the Hungarian Film Fund, or anyone who was willing to listen. I mean, I even remember an incident when there was a high-profile producer in the ladies' room, and I was just talking to her, and I was like, "Okay, so when you come out, I will just tell you a little bit more about the Great Cabinet." Like, sure, good for you.
I mean, you got to
So,
get it in wherever you can, right?
so yeah, so I'm very happy that finally something is happening. I know it's kind of a grassroots kind of initiative, but I guess the biggest thing for me that came out from this perspective is that we all came together, and the fact that we had. Well, on average, we had about 44, 45 people steadily staying on the call. And at some point, we went up to 56, which was really good. So we had about like less, I think 69, less than 70 people sign up to the event, by which we were already amazed. But I was very, to be honest, I was very like mild tempered. I was like, oh yeah, everyone always drops out. If we get half of those people who sign up, we can be happy. And then all these people turned up and they stayed focused. They haven't switched off. It was an hour and a half discussion.
Mm.
We had, an introduction, a presentation, a power round of panelists, and then an open floor discussion. So there was a lot of things happening, and they were so engaged that they kept putting things in the chat, which we're still going through because we're going to summarize everything in a blog. It was Chatham House rules, so we're not going to say names or anything like that. But there were so many other people who separately emailed us saying they're very interested in coming along, but they can't attend for time zone differences, production meetings, life.
Mhm.
So we were like, might as well try and get something out of it, but we don't want to put on a recording because no one actually ever has time to watch the recording. So maybe like a blog that summarizes it can be very good. So it was a long story, meandered to many different angles and corners. But basically, I think what came out of it, there is a hunger for this. And in every country, there are loads of people who are thinking about it, and there are amazing different solutions to this. And it's really good to be aware of like how the people are doing it. I mean, in some country, I think in Argentina, Flores mentioned, who was one of our panelists, for example, she mentioned that it's free. They can just plug in. In other countries, you're being charged. For example, in Hungary, you have like 3 different kind of fees. In France, there will be a different stakeholder behind it who's pushing a stable grid connection, whether that's a temporary or a permanent one. So we're also trying to kind of figure out what are the challenges and the obstacles. But maybe we can talk about that in a
So,
separate question.
well, I guess to just keep it at high level still, so what are the similarities then that you're seeing? So are people plugging into the grid more than you thought, or less than you thought? Um, just want to what did you actually find in terms of like the initial findings that surprised you maybe, or what
I
people are
don't
doing?
I don't think we can really respond to that yet. Like we said,
Okay,
this is
still
like a
early.
first. Yeah, this is a
Okay,
first.
but you sent out a paper but did you send out a survey as well prior to
Yes.
But
that? Okay.
keep in mind that sustainability is a small pool. It's always the same, the usual suspect. It's
Mm-hmm.
an echo chamber. I
Okay.
mean, the people who respond to us are the people who always respond to us. We have the same people on every showcase, on every event, on every call, basically. So we're talking to each other, and we want to expand beyond that. From
Yeah.
those who are always engaging with us, obviously they share similar goals and achievements. So the conclusion was whoever manages to plug in their own country, it always saves them money.
Yeah.
That was the
Mhm.
biggest conclusion. It always saves money. But the biggest challenge was around timing and how that perhaps fits the timeline of a production, because that can be very, very difficult. So we kept talking about how perhaps joining forces with other industries, like how you do it in Canada, can be very, very beneficial.
And then also a thing that came up in almost all the conversations was like there's constantly overspecking being done. So people say, okay, I need this huge, and I cannot plug into the grid because I have this huge amount of power that I need. And then in the end, they didn't. And we heard that from several people. So overspecking, and how the unsung hero of this session is data. That was a thing that somebody wrote in the chat. So yeah, we have an unsung hero, which is data. So we need more data.
Yes.
We need to do more specking, and then and even a certain cabinet was set up fully overspecced. That was a surprise to me. That was a big
I think
surprise.
that was a really big surprise, that not just generators are being overspec, but cabinets as well by accident.
Yeah, which adds cost to that whole project as well.
I think that was down to, they had the same conversations that we all have. They talked to the same production folks, and then everybody is saying, "Oh gosh, we're definitely going to need this." And if you're having those same conversations on productions, you're going to overspec. And then they did the same thing with that cabinet, rightfully so. They asked the stakeholders, "What do you need?" And they listened. It just turns out we didn't have the data then to understand that really isn't what we need. And certainly going forward, I suppose this is a good time for me to do a bit of a shout out to the Fuel Project, only to say, and not to take it off this, but first, another huge collaboration. For that project, we had around 70 suppliers and industry stakeholders hand over data to us. And there is a page so it's called the Shift Report. You can download it from the Film London website for free. But there is a page in there really describing overspecking. And what we found was only 2% of generators are spec'd properly and are being used at optimal. And around 80% never go above 50% of their capacity. So 80% of our generators could probably be half the size that we think they need to be. So hopefully some more work on that overspecking piece is coming out soon. But yeah, that's been such a big takeaway. So I think if anybody's listening, wondering how they're going to do temporary grid connections, it's half the size that you think you need is probably what you actually need. Yeah.
Bouncing off of what you're saying, Roxy, because I think I mean, I don't want to take away towards generators, but I do have quite a nice story with a unit manager. We were on a show, and he was lovely, but he was old school, and he was worried about, like, getting rid of his backup generators and whatever. Like, I mean, from his point of view, like, his head's going to roll if there's a mistake, right? So we live in a fear culture, and we talked about it in the panel yesterday as well, that sometimes this fear culture is the thing that blocks us from becoming more innovative, going for the new technology or something that you don't normally try. And so this unit manager called everyone out on our power plan meeting. Well, not everyone, sorry. Called our head of production out on a power plan meeting saying, "Are you sure I'm not going to lose my job if we get rid of these backup generators?" So then the gentleman responded saying, "I'm sure you're not going to lose your job if you don't. But if you don't get rid of the backup generators, you might lose your job. You also want to consider that if you don't learn how to use this new technology and you don't know how to apply it in the future, other employers will not going to employ you. You're just not going to be that employable. Like, this is a new skill, a new feather to your cap. You want to be employable, and sustainability is part of your employability at this point." And on the same production, he took it very seriously. We've done loads of tests, collated loads of data, and here I'm tying all these information together. So we collated loads of data, and he just comes to us one day and he's like, "Oh, so based on all the data we collected, we're going on location. I'm not taking any generators. I already ordered this battery and that battery and that battery." And I was like, "What? Well, you're clearly learning. That's really good. So happy for you." I simplified the
Nothing,
story, but
nothing
yeah.
like a little pressure, to innovate and be employable. That'll get anybody like fired up, if you will. Yeah, I'm curious. One of the things we've heard a lot on this podcast and, working with people in the field, um, and just trying to, encourage more of is um, literally planning and conversations, talking to people and asking questions across the board, not just with a particular, department, but across the board, kind of like, what are you powering so that we can think about how all of it fits together and what we're going to need in a given location. Did that kind of thing come up, where I'm planning comes up all the time, so I'm sure that word is, used a lot. But like any nuances related to that in the course of this survey?
I think a few things came up. Roxy, you might have something to say, so I'll just say a couple of things that popped into my mind. Around planning, there was a question around timing. So how long does it take for everyone to plug in? It was not really around like how much energy you need. So not that kind of planning. It was more like generally just planning if we're able to plug in at all or not. And then who's going to be doing that? When are you doing that? Are you doing that during a tech recce? Are you doing that beforehand? You already know it. Do you need a licensed third-party operator to do that? Or do you just call up your local borough's energy supplier? Like, what are the steps? What is the procedure for you that you have to follow? Because it turns out it's different in
Mhm.
every region. Passing it on to you, Roxy, 'cause I can see you had a few thoughts as well.
Dörte, do you have other thoughts about what came out of this conversation? Because I was going to go off on a bit of a tangent.
I have my notes. So for me, like there was the specs, the data overspecking.
The
That thing
AD
that
is
you need
always
something.
ready.
Yeah, exactly. Then that you need to centralize the process in order to make it work. That came through, and then it is cheaper. That one came through, and it is doable. That was the takeaway for everyone because somebody said it. One of the panelists said it's doable. So that came through. And what I also took from what was happening in the chat, and I went through this afternoon because in the morning I was so excited I didn't really read what was in the chat. But people were actually worried that exact story that Zsófia just mentioned, that people might lose their job with these new approaches. And there was a tone in the conversation was like, no, we just have to learn, we have to adapt, like as we have always adapted. So we used to shoot on film stock, now we shoot on these little things, and it works, and we've adapted to it. We have these huge lamps, now we have a small, like, adaptation. That was the thing, but taking the people with us in the process, so that social thing, and having the courage to say, I think there was a praise to the courageous gaffers also in the chat, which was nice, because that person has to say,
So
no, we
important.
don't need, yes. And we had really cool gaffers in the audience also who spoke up, and a few were more shy and wrote in the chat. And there something was with the planning, and there was, I think, a location manager, maybe she said, yeah, sometimes we cannot tie into the grid, but then it has to be about playing in order to avoid the generator as much as possible. Which other options can we combine? Because it's never black or white. We have so many things happening in the gray zones.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
What was that, Dörte? There was something about location managers and the contract. Do you remember that?
nope.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought that was one of the more interesting takeaways, that one location manager, what they were doing to sort of carrot rather than stick this conversation was they were just including power grid power within the rental price of the location. And then that meant that any other power that you're going to bring in was an additional cost. So that means that that cheap, so-called cheap diesel Jenny now costs more than plugging into the grid. Of course, we already know that you're going to save money plugging into a grid, but if you've already paid for that electricity price, it's such an easy mechanism for a location manager to just sway the conversation a bit more towards grid. So include power instead of making it an extra cost. I thought that that was a great takeaway. I do feel a bit defensive, I suppose, of the suppliers in that there's so many reasons that overspecking happens. You're trying to film in London. Well, this is a funny story because it's like 30 degrees Celsius here and I'm sweating. But welcome to climate change. This is what we're all here for, right? But if you're filming in London and you have a rainy gray day, but you're filming a sunny scene, you're going to be needing more power. And those suppliers need to make sure that they're ready for that. And maybe it was going to be a gray scene and now it's going to be a sunny scene and changes are made. And we all know the story. Overspecking isn't just happening because people don't care or because they just want to, they're trying to cover the bases of the director and the DOP. Likewise, manufacturing of Jennies, the relative increase in cost to just buy the biggest Jenny is so small that it doesn't make sense to buy smaller generators. You better invest in the big one because at least you have the bases covered.
Yeah.
And that's not a fair decision to then be asking a supplier not to make unless we're ready to use those smaller generators, use those batteries, etc. So I think that was my thinking on suppliers. That location win is such a big one. And then I just wanted to point to the music industry and the festival scene. Festivals are already power planning. Like this is a no-brainer. We don't have to learn, we don't have to figure all of this out. It's already existing. One of our speakers was presenting from a field and prepping for Glastonbury. And Glastonbury was all on grid during prep right now, thanks to his power planning. Like this is a huge win. So we just need to find the experts that already exist. We will need more of them. We don't have enough folks that know the right thing. We don't have enough people with the right qualifications. We need more qualified electricians, etc. But how to do this exists. That idea of critical energy, this exists. We don't need to figure this out. And then Zena, you mentioned those conversations that have to happen. And I always want to give a shout out to the Theatre Green Book. If people don't know about the Theatre Green Book, it comes out of the UK theatre scene. And they all got together and wrote sort of a roadmap for what production conversations should look like and who should be around the table. And I use that often when I'm trying to make comfortable those conversations. It's funny how uncomfortable some folks are with going, what do you mean I'm going to sit down with my gaffer and all these people? We don't have time for that. But if you just sit down, you're going to save so much time and you're going to save money. It's the classic measure twice, cut once. So we can learn from other industries. Music and theater know how to do those bits really well.
Yeah.
Can I just jump? Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Can I just jump on that? Because I really support what you said about the suppliers, because I think it's easy to point fingers and say, oh yeah, they overspec, and that happens. But as you said as well, it was, I mean, on the market, we found out as well, after some of our recent discussions with a bunch of suppliers, we found out that they just have the large ones. And if we want them to invest into the smaller ones, which they're happy to, but then productions will have to put um their money where their mouth is. That
Hmm.
how yeah, they have to put their money where their mouth is. And yes, and that like basically means that at an early stage, when you start talking to your first and largest suppliers, rental companies, facilities companies, all of them, you either put it in your contract, you tell them verbally, but you reassure them you're using your purchase power for the good, that you're going to rent something out from them, so they know they can jump and they can invest in that. It matters quite a lot. I mean, we had some of the largest companies coming back to us saying, we're really sorry, but we don't know you're going to need the smaller ones and we just don't have it available. So I think we all have to do what we want to do. Sorry, we all have to we all have to do something in order to
Is
actually
is
change
it
things.
committing, right? I mean, there has to be
Yeah,
some agreement to, yeah, you can't just get a rental company to go and buy a bunch of new gear and then no one rents
no,
it. So there, and
exactly.
that's tough, right? Because you're trying to be prescriptive to a gaffer or a production or a studio to commit to that, and that's been one of the biggest challenges. But I think we're starting to get there now that people are used to that gear. I mean, that was one of the early challenges that we had was everybody said we want it, and we're like, hey, can you commit to a 6 month
Mm.
rental? Can you commit to run a show? Can you commit to a multi-year? They're like, nope.
Mm.
Nope.
I'm like,
But these
okay,
open
well,
floor discussions help. What
who
Roxy
finances
mentioned as
that?
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah,
open floor
totally.
discussions are really, really useful. And we do found it as well that at the beginning, we made it compulsory. At the beginning, they were fairly awkward. I'll be honest. People didn't really want to turn up and like, why do we have to be here? And it's happening, while it was happening during prep, it's fine. But when it's happening during shoot, that's a real commitment to get everyone on those discussions. But then they started seeing the results. They started seeing that, each week we have a different rental company talking to them. We're all solving these issues together. And,
Yeah.
the outcome was pretty good. We were saving money, we were saving energy, we were basically we're just doing logistics. We're talking to
Yeah.
each other. It's called communication. It's so cool.
I know.
We can
Bring
do it
back those
more.
conversations, man. Like, we need more of those. But
Mm.
interestingly, to just I guess take this a little like another example on this supplier in demand piece. You know, we did this years ago with EVs in Vancouver, and we got a great response. And producers, said yes, they would, rent an EV on their next production, even if it costs a little bit more. And suppliers did purchase them, and that's been a great success. With equipment, we just recently, Real Green launched a survey. Oh gosh, it was probably earlier this year, late last year, and did not get the responses they felt necessary to bring that forward to the suppliers. And so they kind of extended the deadline and these sorts of things. Anyway, all to say, like, um, we really do need to demand it and ask, right? Otherwise, the suppliers don't get the strong signal. And if you think that somebody else is doing it and you assume, like this is being handled by someone else, so maybe I just won't do it. Like that's more is better than assuming. Like more outreach is better than assuming. So, you know, so just that in and of itself, one call's all it takes. The more they get those, they're tracking them, right? And they're tracking um, the suppliers are tracking, when they have to say no to this or, what their answers are to certain questions. So it does help to reach out. So just,
In some conversations that I've had recently, I think about a third of suppliers in the UK are still thinking about buying traditional generators as their next investments. Now we know from research that traditional generators stay within our industry for a decade-ish, sometimes 12 years, sometimes less, sometimes more. So we're stuck with those. So they're going to buy them what next year, 2026. So we're stuck with those until 2036. Or we have stranded assets, um, fancy word, or we have stuff that we don't hire and suppliers don't get a return on investment, or we're retrofitting those. This isn't a win. So if we're not communicating the direction of travel, suppliers need that instruction. They don't want to buy stuff that we're not going to hire. But
Mhm.
if we keep it this mystery, if we aren't talking about um, what we want to be shooting with, if we know that in many places, one of the things we've learned is that government legislation, isn't necessarily going to come in and save us all. But there's no reason that we can't have industry legislation. There's no reason, and actually on the legislation side of things, some of the more this came out to me as a real an interesting sort of takeaway that there are some places like in Rome, for example, where they're not allowed to drive heavy vehicles. They're not allowed to drive
Mm.
heavy trucks. So what does that mean? Well, generators can no longer get through. Jenny trucks can't get through. So they're looking for smaller, lighter things that they can carry through. So then you go, well, a legislation that's actually protecting our roads. No, come on, it's protecting Rome. Rome's important.
Yeah.
Uh, is actually going to benefit the conversation because you don't have to have the sustainability conversation. You can just say these batteries can get through, and same with noise, uh, and same with efficiency, and same with cost savings. I think you don't necessarily have to be the sustainability person. You can be the finance person and you can talk about fuel wins. You can be the person who, you're filming in a neighborhood and you can say, let's keep it quiet so we don't get complaints. Let's get the batteries, not the Jennies. You don't have to talk about this in terms of environmentalism.
Well,
Um,
so
Sometimes that's not going to save us.
Roxy, I love that. I love that point, and that actually leads really, really well into sort of the next sort of question and thought around, um, what are we really talking about when we're talking about sustainability, right? And so, because that terminology is changing, right, and evolving, even since we've all been working in this industry, it's changed. So, how do you find folks are talking about sustainability? You alluded to it there, a few points in your point. What language are they starting to use? What are you hearing in your corner, respective corners, right now around sustainability and how we're communicating it as an industry? It's a broad question,
Yeah.
but you guys
I
can all
use
go around and take a chance, take a shot at it.
Yeah, more and more I can say that I'm using things like air pollution. I'm using
Yeah.
things like health. Um, uh, I sometimes I still find myself going into the doom of our kids' futures when I know the audience and I know that that might be a supported conversation. Noise is great. I use efficiency
Yeah.
a lot because
I
sustainability
like
tends
it.
to mean efficiency in many ways. So yeah, efficiency is like my big word. Let's make this easier for all of us in the future. Um, and let's invest in some hard planning now in order to do things right. But also the direction of travel. I just recently heard a talk, and I have fact checked this, that the green economy in the UK is growing 3 times as fast as the traditional economy here. Like that's the direction of
Interesting.
travel. Let's stop. Like, why are we all tiptoeing around
I
this?
know.
Ooh, ooh, oh, if you don't mind, please, sir, can we do something that's not going to kill us? Like this is madness that we still have to have these conversations. Can we just start talking about I'm your big money win. I am your future. Here's some great ideas. We can do this together. You look amazing. I bet you know loads about future tech. Tell me what you know about the direction of travel. Oh, you know loads about LED lights. Tell me more. I'm curious. Let's nerd out on the new
Hmm.
tech. Our industry loves nerdy tech.
Yeah.
Like we love the newest, shiniest stuff, and that can really benefit us too. It just depends on who you're talking
Yeah.
with. Yeah, yeah.
Love
This
it.
is a win. This is a win on so many levels.
Hmm.
I really love how you how you put it. I'm sometimes like much simpler. I'm just like, it's common sense. Like, what are we even talking about? Like, why? Like look at the impact. Do you want to have savings? Do you want to live? Do you want like I
Do
don't
you
know?
want to
Do you want to
live?
continue living? I don't know. Just it's common sense. I also often believe it's a lot to do with communication, and sustainability is becoming the word sustainability is becoming a little bit used, I guess, maybe a little bit tired,
Yeah.
slightly. I've heard it
Contentious.
from
I
a
mean,
few
depending on where you
people.
live.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I heard it from a few people that it needs a bit of a, I don't
Yeah,
know,
I agree.
face uplift, a little bit of a new PR spin on it. And I'm like, yeah, it probably does. But that's also a good thing. It means it has reached a large
Right.
amount of audiences and people. And now we want to put a new spin on it and we keep learning and learning. So that's around like the widespread education of it as well. So I think it's a really, really good thing.
Shout out to if anybody knows, there's a report called Britain Talks Climate. You don't have to be British.
Mhm.
But they did a really good job of sort of dividing the British public into 6 archetypes and then explaining how best to speak to those various archetypes about environmental topics. Um, and I find myself, in certain company, needing to pull from that. If you're talking about, national resources, how beautiful our land is, whatever's going to move the needle. Yeah. Oh gosh, you think migrancy is bad? Just you wait. I mean, you can really, no matter who you're speaking with, no matter how controversial you might be feeling or sort of defensive in those conversations, there's a route in where you can meet that person where they're at and find some common ground and move the mindset needle a little bit.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
honestly think no one wakes up saying this morning I'm going to be very um, carbon intensive. I'm just gonna do something really bad to the
Right. And I
environment.
hate my
No one
kids.
does that.
I don't care
No
about
one
my
really
kids'
does
future.
that. Yeah.
No,
It's
no.
more around like maybe, out of sight, out of mind. I'm focusing on something else. I'm busy. I'm doing this. I'm doing that, and kind of connecting the dots that every single decision you make every day has a carbon impact. And we can all find our leverage point. Like honestly, I think we can all find that point where you can make the biggest impact without the least effort to some
I see
degree.
what you did there, Sophie.
I
I
know
see
that
what
was
you
really
did there.
good.
Okay.
That
Mhm.
was
That was
really
so
good.
sweet. Sophia, leverage point entertainment.
Surprise!
Like,
I named the company Leverage Point. Hey!
I would like to hear, Dörte, do you have any thoughts in your respective, region and what you're working
Yeah,
on?
because
Yeah.
we're just a little bit behind here, so I have to really, but I can second some of the things that have been said. I have to listen to the person I have in front of me in order to find the entry point. And
Mhm.
I have tried several approaches. I skipped the we are all doomed because that doesn't work at all. It just
Yeah.
pulls people away. I do go a lot to health nowadays. Just the other day, I gave a one day training for Polish Producers Association, and I pulled. I mean, they were all. I was converting, they converted, but then I realized I speak much more about health things, health impacts nowadays. Not, but I add everything because I still think we cannot think of silos. It's not there's not the environment and the social and the economy. It's all like out there, it's all together, so we have to look at it together, but people look at it from different angles, so I have to sometimes put the mirror a bit more on that side or on that side so they see the other angle. I do try to get personal because I think that we react better to something that we feel or that we can personally relate to. There's this guy from the United States, John Marshall from Potential Energy Coalition, and I get his newsletters and they're amazing. But all the market research that they do, which kind of communication actually works with people, it's really cool.
Mm.
And one of the things he said is like, talk human to me. So if I come with parts per million or that
Yeah.
stuff, People
Yeah.
won't get it. But
Yeah.
if it's exactly what Roxy said, like our beautiful country and that, and then appeal to things people can relate to. And apparently, the one thing people very really get people is when you speak about the people they love, like my kids, etc. So that was that John Marshall guy, Potential Energy
Yeah.
Coalition. Go check that one out.
Check that out.
I love it. I love it. So, what is next for this grid tie-in survey? How are you going to, put it all together, get the information out? What can we expect?
Well, obviously, we're in big demand. We can say that now. Obviously, everyone wants to have more grid connection and more talks around grid connection. So that's good. There's going to be the blog. I think there was one really big thing as well, and maybe shout out to the listeners if they know anything about it in their own region. We're talking about, because this is like a fairly, I'm not going to say easy tool, but maybe a first step as well. You have it in Canada. It's the map where
Mhm.
you already have it written down, you can pinpoint it, all the already existing connection points in the city, and perhaps trying to build a collaboration around with the other industries as well. Because it's not just going to be your film production and your producer who's going to be using that, but as Roxy said, all the music festivals, and they already do power planning. There are live events, sport events, all kinds of, well, usually events happening publicly, probably around the city and urban areas. And if we can share something like that, like, in our own regions, if we can share a map where we can gift the keys to the city and to the grid cabinets, then that'd be amazing, because that would already encourage people to use it more often.
Find us on LinkedIn and send us maps from your region of where there's temporary grid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm LinkedIn queen. Find me on LinkedIn.
So we got another map last night during our conversation. I started looking at that. So yeah, there are other maps are available, not just Vancouver. So tell us more, listeners. Where are the maps?
Yeah.
And yeah, that would be great to understand.
I heard some rumors they have a map in Prague as well, but I don't think I've got a link to it. So if we have listeners from Prague, then please share that map with us if it really exists.
Yeah. So you want to know where the grid tie-ins exist in a given city or within a given region. So that's a key ask.
Yeah, that's a
And
key
That's a key
ask.
ask. There's
It's
one more key ask. Oh, sorry.
yes. Well, I was gonna say, tell us the costs and the time and the savings. Do you have case studies? That was a thing that really came out of well, a few calls I've actually been on recently, but ours in particular is there's all these wins happening in productions, but we're not sharing enough. That the case studies that come out afterwards get held back due to green hushing, due to fear, um, and then we don't learn from each other at nearly as fast or as quickly as we could.
mhm.
So when it comes to temporary grid connections, one of the things that's going to make any city move on this faster, and any industry, regional industry is saying, we're going to save you money or we're going to make you money. So one of the wins from the UK is Film London made that the grid project coming out of Film London put in that power cabinet in Victoria Park here. Other industries are using it now. Festivals are using it. It's a huge success, and it's being transferred over to the council now for running. And that council is going to create a revenue stream from that energy. Like this is such a no-brainer conversation to be having. So
Mhm.
instead of money going to fossil fuel companies, essentially, that money is going to stay in the community you're filming in. Um, what a massive win that is. And
I know.
especially film shoots, having festivals, etc. in your neighborhood, not necessarily the most comfortable. We're not always the nicest about, oh, you want to get to your car. Um, we should all be nicer. But also, we're leaving something positive behind. Also, let people through on the pavement. That would be nice. Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry, there was
That's
one more big takeaway.
yes.
If we're already asking listeners to
Yeah.
send us stuff, there's something else you can send us, which we briefly touched upon, because you mentioned the trucks, Roxy. But I think there's a lot more to that actually. That there are certain cities, boroughs, districts, whatever you have, that have different kind of legislations. So let's say I think Paris banned
Yep.
generators up until stage 5. Don't quote me on that. I can't
Madrid. That
remember.
was
If you look
Madrid, I
at the
think.
Excel, that was Madrid. But I think
They have
Paris is
similar
pending.
things.
I heard it about Barcelona before. I know from experience around the UK, depending on whether you're shooting at a natural reserve site, you're obviously banned and you're not allowed to use generators, just batteries. But then again, we had a couple of different legislations um, around regional locations where they weren't banning the Jennies, but they said they have requirements around trucks and engines. And again, that played into that what you were talking about, Roxy. I think the big thing here, which we tried to like touch upon yesterday in the call as well. So the big thing was, is there a global data sheet, database, anything, a big Excel? Have we got anything? Shall we create one? Because it would be really nice to see like what's already in place. Is it around vehicles? Is it around generators? Is it around reserving natural resources and sorry, the entire environment? Is it a noise pollution requirement? Because we have that, for example, in Hungary as well. So certain districts you
And
can't take in.
Santiago, Chile has
Yeah,
the same thing. No
there
noise.
you go. So there's a lot in place already, and there's a lot more that's planned.
Mhm.
And sometimes what's being pretty hush hush, all that's being planned is just being pushed. And we often don't even know about it. So maybe they plan they're gonna go generator free in like an ancient part of the city to protect it. But then they push the deadline by 3 years so they can have a little bit more tourists or whatever. And I think it matters quite a lot. It would be nice to have a central database where we can look up that information again
And
globally. Who
and
wants to
that's
do it?
and that's what you've all started. So this is
Sure.
amazing, and it's a great first step. And you guys bringing together all of this collective knowledge, and also you're on that WhatsApp group. There's hundreds of people on there now. So this is really, really amazing. And thank you for all of your work on this and taking the initiative. And I'm sure we'll be able to learn from it here in North America as well. So I think on that note. Yeah, I guess can anybody find out more information as a last point? Is this it's not publicly available yet. This is still in incubation, but you guys will uh plan to release it, I'm assuming at some point in the future. Is that correct?
We're all
Yeah.
on LinkedIn, baby.
Okay. So you can find
Yeah.
everybody on LinkedIn, hunt them down and pick their brains. It's
Send us your
great.
local legislation.
Send
Pass it
us
Yeah,
your
to
logo.
Susan.
exactly.
In a
Right.
language we can understand, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Very
great.
good. Very good. Well, it's so cool to have you all on and thanks for the collaboration. Honestly,
Hmm.
way to go on that. We need more of it. Because we got to move fast and the only way to move fast is
And
together.
efficient.
So, and
And
efficiently.
efficient.
Yes.
Vision. Yep.
Yeah. So thank you all. Really, really appreciate the
Yeah.
conversation and what you're doing out there.
Thank you
Thank
guys for having us.
you.
It was a really nice idea. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Lovely.
Thanks to Colin as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Colin.
Right.
Thanks, everyone.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Picnic Social. Our producer is Colin Miller.